Welcome to our deep dive into the world of forests. We'll be exploring the vital role of trees and, well, the silent crisis that's threatening their existence, and a surprisingly hopeful plan to safeguard them. We're using excerpts from The Man Who Planted Trees by Jim Robbins. It's a fascinating blend of science, history, and personal narrative.
Yeah, what's striking about this book is how it personalizes the issue. It starts with a man's own forest being devastated by the impacts of climate change. It really makes the crisis feel incredibly real and close to home for the reader.
Yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it? Imagine looking out your window and seeing no trees. How would that make you feel? What if all the trees in your neighborhood, your favorite park, just started dying?
And that's not some far-off dystopian future.
Hmm.
Robbins highlights these massive forest die-offs that are happening right now. From the Rocky Mountains to the Amazon, millions of acres are disappearing, with some species even facing extinction. It's continental-scale phenomenon, as the book calls it.
The book paints a pretty stark picture. One scientist even describes it as eerie when the tree reaper comes to claim your forest and renders the once living world around you stone dead. It's a powerful image that really drives home the severity of the situation.
And this is just the beginning. Even with conservative climate predictions, these die-offs are projected to worsen dramatically.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. The book dives into just how essential trees are for the planet and for us. We often take them for granted, seeing them as just pretty scenery, but they're actually the unsung heroes of our planet's ecosystem.
Providing trillions of dollars worth of benefits that we often overlook. They produce oxygen, manage water, control pollution, regulate the climate, provide habitats for countless species. They're essential for our survival.
For example, did you know that a single mature tree can store up to 100 gallons of water in its crown? That's a pretty impressive natural reservoir.
That's right. And there's even an economic impact. Think about energy savings from shading our homes, or increased property values in tree-lined neighborhoods. As the book says, if we had to pay for the services that trees provide, we couldn't afford them.
Okay, so we've established that trees are vital. But The Man Who Planted Trees doesn't just stop at outlining the problem. It introduces us to David Millark, a third-generation tree farmer with a radical idea for safeguarding forests.
Millark's story is certainly unique. He had a near-death experience, which he describes as a visit to the other side. He came back with this urgent message about the need to protect trees.
His concern stems from the fact that centuries of logging have favored what he calls the genetic runts of the forest. Basically, we've been selectively cutting down the biggest, strongest trees for so long that we've inadvertently weakened the overall genetic resilience of our forests.
It's like we've been planting the seeds from the smallest, sickliest vegetables for generations, and then wondering why our crops are failing.
That's a great analogy. It really makes you think about the long-term consequences of our actions, even when it comes to something as seemingly simple as choosing which trees to cut down. So how did Millark propose to address this issue?
He started the Champion Tree Project, which focuses on cloning the biggest, oldest trees of each species, the champion trees, to preserve their DNA, which contains the strongest, most resilient genes. The goal is to create forests that can withstand the challenges of a changing climate.
These champion trees are like the superheroes of the forest. They've weathered storms, droughts, diseases, and all sorts of environmental challenges for centuries. Their genes hold valuable information about resilience and survival.
Exactly. Millark and his team are creating living archival libraries around the world where they plant these clones, ensuring the survival of these precious genetic lines. It's like a Noah's Ark for trees.
And they've already had some remarkable successes. They successfully cloned the field brick stump, which was the largest redwood ever recorded. They're also planting sequoias, and a whole host of other species. Millark's work highlights the importance of preserving the genetic diversity of trees, especially as new research is uncovering their remarkable potential for healing both the planet and ourselves.
So while the scientific community is still exploring the full extent of trees' influence, some researchers are even venturing into the realm of the unknown, exploring connections between trees and the cosmos.
Ooh, that sounds fascinating. It's almost like we're stepping into the world of ancient myths and legends, where trees held a special place in the cosmos.
Yeah, there is a historical context to that. Many cultures have revered trees as sacred beings connected to the heavens. But what's interesting is that some modern scientific research seems to be echoing these ancient beliefs.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of research are we talking about?
Well, Robbins discusses the work of a researcher named Lawrence Edwards, who dedicated decades to studying the growth patterns of trees. What he found was remarkable. Edwards observed these rhythmic patterns in the way trees grow. patterns that seem to be linked to the movements of the planets.
Hold on. Are you saying that trees are doing a cosmic dance with the planets?
It might sound out there, but that's exactly what Edwards' research suggests. He observed that different species of trees would go through these subtle shape-shifting cycles over a 2-week period, and these cycles seem to correspond with specific planetary alignments.
Can you give me an example?
For instance, Edwards noticed that oaks would subtly alter their form in a particular way when the moon was positioned between the Earth and Mars, and birches would exhibit their own unique shape-shifting pattern when the moon was aligned between the Earth and Venus. It's as if each species has its own unique cosmic dance.
That's incredible. It sounds like something out of astrology. But you mentioned this was a serious scientist conducting rigorous research.
Exactly. And Edwards wasn't alone in his findings. The book also mentions a study conducted by Russian scientists in the mid-1970s. They analyzed the growth rings of an ancient juniper tree, over 800 years old, and discovered something quite striking.
Don't tell me it involved aliens.
No aliens this time, but close. The researchers found that the tree's growth had significantly slowed down in the years following major supernova events. It's as if the tree was somehow sensing these distant cosmic explosions and reacting to them.
That's mind-boggling. It really challenges our understanding of how trees interact with the world around them. It makes you wonder if there's a level of interconnectedness that we're only just beginning to grasp.
Now, let's shift gears and revisit the concept of the electrical potential of trees, which we touched upon earlier.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that trees have a measurable electrical field. But can we really harness that energy in a practical way? Could I plug my phone into a tree and charge it?
You might need a special adapter for that.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, while you can't directly charge your phone from a tree, researchers are exploring ways to harness this subtle energy. In 2009, scientists at the University of Washington developed a device that utilizes a tree's electrical potential to power sensors. It's still in its early stages, but it opens up exciting possibilities for using trees as a source of renewable energy.
That's pretty amazing. So we've got trees potentially communicating with the cosmos and possibly even powering our devices. What other surprises do they hold?
Well, this leads us into a more speculative, but equally fascinating area of research. The question of whether trees might actually possess a form of sentience or awareness.
Wait, are we talking about trees having feelings? I'm not sure I'm ready to believe that trees are conscious beings.
It's certainly a controversial idea.
Yeah.
And the scientific community is still debating it. But Robbins introduces us to the work of Cleve Baxter, a renowned lie detection expert who conducted some rather intriguing experiments with plants back in the 1960s.
Okay, now I'm picturing a tree hooked up to a lie detector test.
That's not far off from what Baxter actually did. He attached a polygraph to the leaves of plants and observed their reactions to various stimuli. What he found was that the plants seemed to react emotionally to things, like being harmed, or even if someone was merely thinking about harming them.
So they were picking up on human intentions. That's both fascinating and a little bit creepy.
Baxter called this phenomenon primary perception, suggesting that plants might have a basic level of awareness and the ability to perceive and react to their environment in ways we don't fully understand.
Well, that's a fascinating concept. Is there any other scientific research supporting this idea of plant intelligence?
There's a whole emerging field called plant neurobiology, where scientists are exploring the possibility that plants are far more complex and intelligent than we give them credit for. Interestingly, the idea goes all the way back to Charles Darwin.
Wait, the father of evolution was interested in plant intelligence.
While not exactly focused on intelligence in the way we think of it today, Darwin and his son Francis conducted extensive research on plants. They proposed the intriguing theory that plants might have a sort of brain located at the tips of their roots. A concept is being revisited by modern plant neurobiologists.
So we're talking about the brain of a tree being underground. That's a pretty radical concept.
It is. And it makes you wonder what other secrets these silent giants might be hiding. But beyond the speculative, there's a growing body of scientific evidence suggesting that trees are far more complex and interconnected than we previously realized.
Okay, so we've spent quite a bit of time exploring these fascinating, even mysterious aspects of trees. But I'm also thinking about the very real threats they face. What can we actually do to help ensure their survival?
Well, the man who planted trees is actually very encouraging in this regard. Robbins argues that we need a multi-pronged approach. It's not just about planting more trees, although that's crucial, but also about protecting existing forests and promoting their long-term health. It's about quantity and seed quality.
So we need to think both about expanding forests A and D, making sure the ones we have are thriving. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. One problem Robbins highlights is forest fragmentation, where development has broken up large forests into isolated patches.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. Driving through forested areas, you constantly see these roads and clearings cutting through what was once a continuous canopy.
And that fragmentation has a ripple effect. It disrupts wildlife habitats, makes trees more susceptible to diseases and pests, and even affects the local climate.
Okay, so how do we address this fragmentation issue? Do we need to buy up all the land around forests and turn it back into wilderness?
That would be fantastic. But it's not always practical. Robbins suggests thinking about creating corridors, strips of forest that connect these fragmented areas.
Like wildlife highways,
Yeah.
allowing animals to move freely between those patches of forest.
Precisely. And these corridors don't have to be massive. Even planting trees along roadsides and in urban areas can help create these vital connections.
I like that. It feels doable. It's something individuals, communities, even businesses could get involved in.
Absolutely. And remember our earlier discussion about choosing the right trees? Robbins stresses planting native species that are adapted to the local ecosystem.
Right, no more French poodle trees just because they look pretty. We need to be planting for the long haul, choosing trees that will thrive and support the surrounding environment.
Exactly. And it's not just about the type of tree, but also about where we plant them. Robbins points out that trees planted strategically near buildings can have a significant impact on energy savings.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, how trees can shade buildings in the summer and even help reduce heating costs in the winter.
Right. And when we reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, we're also reducing carbon emissions, which helps combat climate change. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, it's amazing how planting a tree can have such a positive ripple effect, creating habitat, cleaning the air, saving energy,
Yeah.
and helping fight climate change.
Robbins provides some inspiring examples of people putting this into action. He tells the story of Japanese fishermen who planted trees to restore their local fisheries. They understood that healthy forests are crucial for healthy oceans.
That's such a great example of interconnectedness. And remember, the bishop in Tanzania, who is leading his congregation in planting trees to try to save the glaciers on Mount Kilimanjaro, these stories show that people are taking matters into their own hands and making a difference.
And Robbins goes even further, arguing that planting trees on a massive scale could be one of our most powerful tools for addressing climate change. He cites studies suggesting that large-scale tree planting could actually remove a significant amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
Wow, that's incredibly hopeful. If we could actually reverse some of the damage we've done to the climate, it would be incredible.
It's a bold idea,
Yep.
and it will require global effort. But it highlights the incredible potential of trees to heal our planet. What stands out to you from all of this? What resonates the most?
I mean, this deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. I'm walking away with a much deeper respect for trees,
Yeah.
a renewed commitment to planting more of them, and honestly, a lot more hope for the future.
Me too. The man who planted trees is a powerful reminder that we're all connected to the natural world, and that our actions, even seemingly small ones, can have a significant impact.
Well, this deep dive has been a fantastic journey into the world of forests. We've learned about the threats they face, the incredible ways they support life on Earth, and the hopeful actions we can all take to ensure their survival. We hope you've gained a new appreciation for these incredible beings. Maybe even consider planting a tree yourself, or supporting organizations like the Ancient Tree Archive that are working to protect our forests for future generations. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.